10, Thursday, March 15, 2018, Board of Education regular meeting. Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Linda.
Mrs. Clapp. Here. Ms. Janice Doyle. Here. Mr. Luchetti.
Here.
Mr. Lulo.
Here.
Mr. Janet.
Here.
Mr. Kostick.
Here.
Mr. Kirby.
Here. Thank you. Next on our agenda is public comment. So we have several people signed up. I'm going to apologize as I mispronounce last names. So Kim Casmata.
Yep.
Thank you, Kim.
Good evening. My name is Kim Kazmata. I've lived in Mokina for almost 25 years, and I've been a daytime swimmer at Central's Pool since the day it opened. I'm here to ask you to reconsider the decision to immediately restrict community access to the pools and tracks because it's blameless or baseless, contributes nothing towards increased security, and quite honestly, it's unfair. Daytime swimmers have never been a threat. We love this school because of the pool. We've complied and agree with every security measure that's been put forth, the decrease in hours, the use of the main entrance, surrendering our driver's license. We will do whatever you require. There is no need for this. Shutting out seniors and selling it as increased security is both comical and sad because it doesn't address the horrific reality that these shootings are done by current or former students, and any kid can stuff a gun in his backpack and walk into class. Will County Board has discussed the use of metal detectors at schools. That's effective security. This is not. Closing daytime use of the schools only serves to increase animosity in the community at a time when you need to instill trust. It costs you nothing but some small administrative tasks, yet you have everything to gain. This is a positive, popular, beneficial policy for the community and the school district, one that works, one that you can be proud of, one that you can take to other school districts and tout as an example of how to engage and enlist the community in increasing their taxes for high-quality facilities that they can be a part of. I pay over $3,500 in high school taxes for the promise to use these schools, to use these pools, and there is no other pool in the area like this. According to a 2016 report from the Public Health Law Center in St. Paul, Minnesota, community use of school property is a common practice that occurs in schools across the nation. In Minnesota, there are more than 300 public, elementary, and secondary independent school districts, and each allows some form of community use of school property. I would like to submit the report to you and encourage you to see the incentives of allowing community use of taxpayer school property. In times like this, it's paramount to maintain positive practices that benefit the health and well-being of all of us. Thank you.
Next I have Liz Holmes.
Hello, how are y'all doing? First of all, thank you for letting us speak. Our primary concern is the safety of students and adults. We want to follow any and all new safety rules and regulations. We can be an extra set of eyes and ears. Case in point, a couple of weeks ago, after swim, we saw students opening the hall outside doors. We alerted the front desk. Who knows what problems can be solved when people meet and engage in conversations. We realize what a privilege we have. Muscles have been strengthened, sore backs relieved, knees and hips rehab, all helped by aqua therapies. The pool and walking tracks have helped many people. We feel like we are part of the Lincoln Way community. We will do whatever it takes. We wish to brainstorm with you and be part of the discussion regarding safety. We are a happy, positive, safe people.
Thank you. That's it, Colleen Malloy.
Hello, I'm Colleen Malloy, and thanks for letting us talk. And I just wanted to say that offering the evening hours doesn't really, it doesn't provide, most of us that go in the morning, we don't want to go out at night. My aunt is 90, and she doesn't want to go out at night. She drives in the day, but not at night. So the evening hours really don't help us. So basically, they're shutting us off. And that was mainly what I wanted to say.
Thank you for sharing. Next is Calvin Hendren. Did I have the right Calvin?
I'm sure.
Hello, I am.
Taller than the other one.
I'm tall.
Yeah, not for
It's hard
some
to
of it.
hear.
Dear school board members, my name is Calvin Hendren, and I am currently a junior at Lincoln Way East High School. I am here to briefly speak about the walkout that occurred yesterday, Wednesday the 14th of March, and then I have a question for all of you. After the tragic shooting in Parkland, Florida, just over a month ago, the student body of the Lincoln Way School District reacted in the only rational manner, civil disobedience. This was executed in the manner of a peaceful walkout. Now, I can only speak about my experiences at Lincoln Way East, as I will briefly now. Weeks before the lockout, students had planned to go to the flagpole directly outside of the main office to peacefully protest gun violence, but mainly to celebrate the lives of the victims of the Parkland shooting. A group of students met with the administration and received permission to have a peaceful walkout with no consequences, well within the students' right to protest and their freedom of speech. This was to little avail because in the days before the walkout, the administration later reversed their decision and prevented the students from leaving the building. Now, I do understand that this was in the wake of multiple threats of violence against our school district, which is warranted. But I and many other students still felt that we should have had the ability to walk out of this school as it is within our rights. The day of the walkout, we were notified of this over the announcements by a warning that nobody would be allowed to leave the school and that all of our planned walkout would be in the schoolhouse instead. Though this was a decent attempt at entertaining some of the demands of us students, it just was not enough. That day, I went outside of the building and walked to the flagpole as I had planned the whole time, through unlocked doors, unguarded, despite what the school claims to, have changed due to new security protocols. And then realizing that nobody else had been able to leave the school, fellow student and I walked back in through the main office to join the rest of the students who gathered in the courtyard. Now I know that moments earlier, members of the administration had gone out into the courtyard and yelled at students and asked them to disassemble or move their protest. I was shocked when I entered the building because I saw a wall of administrators and local police officials blockading the doors, preventing the students from leaving the building if they wanted to. This raises serious concerns to me, as their students have the right to leave the building at any time. If they do it in an excessive amount, it does, result in truancy. But legally speaking, the most that a student could be punished for this walkout would be 3 days of out-of-school suspension. I was shocked, was surprised at this, and I consulted members of the ACLU, and they told me that although there is not a clear violation in their, what occurred was in a gray area, what happened may have resulted in a violation because it restrains students' physical liberty in ways that raise issues under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment and the right to be free from unreasonable seizures under the 4th Amendment. Also, the fact that the school has deviated from its normal practice and has treated the students more harshly in the context of a planned walkout suggests that they may be suppressing student speech as opposed to just keeping us safe, which I understand is the goal. I am here to ask you why these actions have occurred unnoticed and why the administration was allowed to block the students off from exiting the building against our rights, and how and I would hope that if there is another form, if the students choose to exercise our freedom of speech again, which I would not be surprised if that happens sooner or later, knowing the state of our nation. I would like to know if we will have to worry about, violations of our constitutional rights again, because I personally think that I should be granted the same rights as an adult, because legally speaking, we're the same. Tinker v. Des Moines states that although students, have to follow certain rules of the school, like no profanity, we cannot disrupt from classes. Our rights do not end at the schoolhouse gates, and yesterday those schoolhouse gates were blocked by our administration. So I would like to prevent this from happening again, and I do not mean any disrespect to our administrative officials, because I understand yesterday was an interesting situation. I just mean to defend myself and all of the thousands of students in our district. Thank you very much for your time.
Well said. Thank you.
Calvin, first of all, nicely done. Nicely done. In terms of, walking out, obviously, you can walk out of any of our buildings. You can walk out of any exit. In terms of what changed or what predicated the encouragement to stay inside, it would have been parents and law enforcement officials believed it was in the best interest of our students to stay inside. And while you could have walked through and out the front doors, out any doors, that would have been your right to do so. I know Dr. Mahalik met with the organizers early that morning to try and encourage the students to stay inside. And as I said, it was done so for the safety. I'm aware of Tinker versus Des Moines. I'm also aware of in local parentis. And when you're here during the school day, we're charged with your safety and security. So I completely respect where you're coming from. I would encourage you to make an appointment to meet with Dr. Mahalik and the administration at East. And I know she'll be happy to sit down and discuss that event with you. But very well said, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you as well.
Next is is Sydney Nicole.
Hi, I'm also here to speak about the walkout as my volunteer did. Sorry. Hello, my name is Sydney. I am currently a student at Lincoln East also. In 1969, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Tinker v. Des Moines that students do not leave their rights at schoolhouse doors. I stand here today to express my First Amendment right that was unjustly and unconstitutionally taken from me yesterday during the National Walkout Day. A month ago, the National Walkout Day was formed. Lincoln Way administration decided it was best if they remained neutral in the situation and did not aid the students in developing a plan. We did not complain, we did not beg, we simply began executing. Students organized for the school to walk out to the flagpole where we would dedicate 1 minute to each life lost during the Florida shooting. It was not until yesterday that our supposedly neutral administration remained anything but neutral. The morning began with an admin announcement informing us students that she did not recommend the event. She also asked us to ask ourselves why we were really doing it and question the ability for it to create change. She suggested we instead spend 17 days doing nice things. Why would it be one or the other as an option? Why can't I take a respectful stand and be nice to people? Not just for 17 days, but always. I understand that the admin has a right to her opinion, as do I, but I never force my opinion using leadership by fear on anyone else. As a student, her message offended me. I question if a member of the Stoneman and Douglas family were there if the same message would have been read. Then 10 a.m. came around. At that time, deans and the administrators were blockading the doors so that us students could not execute our plan. If I am correct, the First Amendment states that we have the right to freedom of speech. Protesting is part of that freedom of speech I am given. Although given a month to be part of our plan, administration waited until the day of to tell us what to do. They controlled our actions and stole our voice. When we saw we could not go out the doors, we decided to make a way for a safe, controlled, locked courtyard, where you can watch a video of a dean making unnecessary threats to students to go to her office and screaming at the top of her lungs to get in the field house. Lastly, I want to address the fact that no one seems to think I am capable of understanding what yesterday meant. And please, with all respect, refrain from telling me that you do. The announcement made and the removal of my First Amendment right says otherwise. Yesterday was about a few things to us students. It was about honoring the 17 lives lost, the lives that were taken because we do not have a strict enough gun laws in place, the lives taken because we do not have a strong enough mental health system in our country, the lives taken because of the system you and our administrations belong to, failed a boy in Florida. I live this fear every day. You were lucky enough not to have to wake up every morning and question if you'll come home safely. You were lucky to not turn on your phone in the morning and see more kids that are your age that were killed while trying to learn. This is my reality. I am tired of being told I do not understand. If you still generally believe that I do not understand, then I have to ask the question of whose fault that would be. My administration spoke on the announcements questioning whether I knew why I wanted to walk out. But if I'm not smart enough to understand, as insinuated, isn't that yours and the administration's job? Is it not yours and the administration's job to educate me? You told me a few years ago that when your lawyer called me irrelevant, that it was just an accident and a bad choice of words. But I feel just as irrelevant now as I did back then. Thank you.
Susan, please. So sorry.
That's okay. That was close. Fabris.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Fabris. I've lived in New Lenox my entire life. Made a choice to stay here because it's a small community with a lot of love. I'm asking you to reconsider letting us walk and use the pools in the schools. Let us stand united, not divided. We pose no threat. Like was stated earlier, I think we are another set of eyes in that school. We're there, we love our community, that's why we're here. And we love the students and we love the school. So I'm asking you to please reconsider. Evening hours, most of us are homemakers. We're home feeding our families at 6 o'clock at night. We're putting our children to bed at 9 o'clock at night. It's just not a convenient time for us. So I'm begging you to please change that and let us be a part of a solution. Thank you.
And Karen Platt.
My name is Karen Platt, and I'm just really going to repeat what they have said about the walking and the swimming. I have recently joined Reclaim Fitness, and they take your picture, they take your driver's license, you walk in there, you give them your name, they look at you on the screen and make sure it's you, they let you in. That's all the kind of security that they have, which is similar to what we have. We have Brian, he comes to the door, he lets us in, we have our driver's license, he knows us, he lets us in to swim, the doors are locked, we leave, the doors are locked. It's that simple. So if you'd like to see what the security is like, why don't you join the early morning swim team and come with us and see what it's like. It's really not that bad, and neither is when we walk. So please reconsider.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to nominate Joe Costa to join the early morning swim team. But on a serious note, I want to take a moment and thank everybody for speaking. I know it takes a ton of courage to get up there. These are passionate topics, both of them, the exercise and the physical fitness, and what went on yesterday. So it doesn't go unnoticed. We hear you, and we will obviously take everything you say into consideration, but thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us and be part of this process. So I mean that in all sincerity. All right, next on our agenda, award and presentations, recognition, and we'll start with our student council president, Michelle. You were smiling.
Okay, so last week at Lincoln Way Central, we hosted our annual special games, and athletes from all over the SWSC conference gathered here to compete, and we cheered on the entire school throughout the entire day. And here at Central, our functional and practical skills program, as well as our adaptive PE leaders, did an outstanding job getting our entire student body involved and excited for this year's games. Our Knights placed second in the Spirit Wall competition, and many of our student athletes took home first place in their events as well. And in other news, our Mathletes team just won the annual JJC Invitational, and they are preparing for state, which is going to be at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in May. And on more of a community note, as a whole, the Lincoln Way District raised over 2,300 toys and books for the Children's Oncology Toy Chest, with the efforts of at Central, our sports clubs, and also our activities. And as far as more of a student council kind of side of things, we are in our final stages of preparation for our Knight in Shining Armor and Prom Fashion Show, which is coming up actually this Wednesday. And we are getting super excited, and I know it'll be another great show. And after next week's show, student council will begin planning for our remaining events of the year, which include Teachers of the Night dinner hosted by seniors and student council, Teacher Appreciation Week, class elections, and the election of our student council executive board for next year. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll start with athletics. For Lincoln Way West, we are just getting our spring sports up and running. Boys water polo just beat Bradley Bourbonnais in their season opener Monday night, 18-6. And our girls water polo has also been crushing it, even right now. We are also very proud of our coach, Glenn, who is the 2017 head coach of the year, who just recently represented Team Illinois at Illinois versus Indiana All-Star Duels. As for general, our key club and our library are doing a book drive this past week, collecting books to sell at West Fest, which is this Saturday. It's an annual craft fair in which we have hundreds of booths and a jazz band performance for the local community to come and check out. NHS has also been doing a dress and accessory drive to donate gently used dresses to those who may not be able to afford them on their own. School-wide, we had a donation of hundreds of toys to the Pediatric Oncology Treasure Chest as well, which we are very proud of. Special games last Thursday, our theme was What Warrior Dreams Are Made Of. And we had freshman Jack White sing the national anthem, and his current dream right now is to meet singer Toby Keith. So we're hoping people will retweet that video enough for him to meet his idol. On the student council front, our current project is creating baskets for Gigi's Playhouse, which is a community home in Tinley Park that helps provide care for adolescents with Down syndrome. So it's a place for them to go during the day. We're making a family game night basket and a summer-themed basket in which we'll be putting movies, popcorn, flip-flops, and they'll be selling those baskets at a gala in April in order to raise funds for them to create a whole new building. Student council is also still getting reactions from twerk as we're moving into our last quarter. We're planning different events. We had most people in attendance ever, but we are still planning on ways to improve for homecoming in the fall. Our prom, April 28th, will be a night in Hollywood. The student body is very excited as we'll be selling tickets next Thursday and Friday. Next Friday is also our spring recognition assembly, which will be recognizing national merit finalists, our special games athletes, and other athletes as well. Honor roll night will be next Wednesday, which will be our last honor roll for our seniors. So we'll recognize all the academic achievements of our students. And finally, our Lincoln Way Theater Department will be hosting the musical Fiddler on the Roof in the second weekend of April. All right, so on Saturday, February 24th, Lincoln Way East hosted the Mr. and Miss Griffin and the talent show competition. The auditorium was filled with over 900 audience members, and we enjoyed one of the best shows ever. Congratulations to Mr. and Miss Griffin, Malachi Murphy, and Maddie Corey. Our talent show winners were the members of the mariachi band, which was Andre Gutierrez, Steve Newton, and Adam Barrera. With the proceeds raised from the ticket sales, we were able to give out 18 scholarships to seniors, so that was awesome. This past Tuesday, our varsity football team held a ceremony in the auditorium. Their 2017 IHSA Class 8A state championship rings were presented to the coaches, support staff, and athletes. So it was one great final night to honor it and complete the full circle of the championship season. Since this is one of the worst flu seasons on record, FBLA hosted its second successful blood drive of the year. This past week, 76 people showed up to donate blood, and then with the blood donated, 228 lives could possibly be saved, so congratulations to them. This week, Best Buddies is hosting their annual March Madness tournament, so the teachers are seated in a bracket style, kind of like the March Madness NCAA tournament, and then donation jars are placed out, so the teachers that have the most money at the end of each day move on in the bracket, and then all the proceeds go to the Best Buddies Illinois chapter. And then finally, we have begun our St. Baldrick's competition at Lincoln Way East. 20 students and 2 faculty members have volunteered to raise money and shave their heads for the St. Baldrick's organization. So this event is going to be held on Thursday, March 22nd during the boys' home volleyball game. And then since inception, Lincoln Way has raised well over $100,000 for this fundraiser.
Oh, wow.
At your places is a thank you note from the Pediatric Oncology Treasure Chest Foundation with the help of our students. Once again, we are the nationwide highest contributor to the Treasure Chest, our collection of toys, games, and different play materials for students who are undergoing cancer treatment. So thank you for your efforts.
Next, our curriculum and instruction update.
It's my pleasure to introduce social science leaders, the department chairs this evening. Just a quick intro to what they do, and they'll get into the detail. But when we started the reading program 11 years ago, we knew that it was going to be a great freshman foundation, but if one department didn't own reading and literacy and take it and run with it sophomore, junior, senior year, it would just be a freshman program. And as much as they love their content, they've embraced the literacy side of things. And what you have in front of you is a packet. I know Mr. Janik's been working on that for about half an hour, but it's full of activities, ideas, the kind of things that they've created that really don't happen in most other districts in terms of social science. So fantastic stuff. So we'll introduce them as we come up. Michelle, you can introduce yourself if you're the first one up.
Sure. Hi.
You don't want to look at Dave's face the whole time.
His picture.
All right, so hi, thank you for having us tonight. We are excited to talk to you about what we do other than teaching what stereotypically, right, is timelines and events and people and history. But what we do in social science also is so much more than that. We do lots for ACT, SAT now preparations, and preparations for our students on their AP exams. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we've done with the ACT in the past. Tim had to put in a cartoon. But it is so true. We've spent so long talking to our kids about the ACT and getting them prepared. We've taken on a lot of the reading strategies. It's become such an ingrained part of our curriculum. The readings that we put on our assessments, the activities we have them do. So you do have this handout in your packet. For years and years, we have used these reading stems from the ACT that we've modeled after that with factual, finding the main idea, sequencing questions from their freshman year, and we've built on that throughout their traditional sequence, freshman, sophomore, and junior year in the core classes. Of course, things have changed, and now with the state giving the SAT, we find ourselves talking to the students about the difference between those. Our students are going to take the ACT to go to college and also the SAT for the state. They may choose to use that score for college as well. So we won't abandon the ACT strategies. We'll keep those, and we're talking to the kids now about how the SAT is a little bit different. While they do have a little more time to take the SAT reading portion, they have fewer questions, but they have 5 passages instead of 4. And sometimes the passage is actually 2 passages where they're comparing pieces of literature or primary sources. One I actually was talking to the students about this week is a speech from Abe Lincoln as compared to a publication from Henry David Thoreau. So having to compare those 2 pieces of literature and make some comparisons. Still some of those same pieces, find the main idea, vocabulary, and context that we've been working on, but under the SAT format. So we've talked to them about the differences between the tests. We've also talked to our students about how to attack this reading section. Some of those same strategies, and with the SAT being College Board, this helps our students that choose to take so many of our AP classes as well as they become sophomores, juniors, and of course lots during their senior year. Some of the things that you see here that are very common for all of these standardized tests, look over the questions, writing on the test, making that a part of their active reading process, marking the test, crossing things off, rephrasing questions. Why did the author use this term or this analogy to describe a certain part? 2 of the things that I've used when I talked with students that kind of made their eyes big is, you don't have to do the questions in order. We've often told them, look at the questions and go back to the reading. But you don't have to do the questions in order. And so much of the ACT I found in the reading asks the main idea question first. Well, they haven't even looked at it yet, so they can't answer that question first. And so strategy books I read say, save that question for last. So we've told them to do that. We've also told them, it's bolded there in the middle, read only what you need. So many of the kids would look at questions and then go to the passage and start reading a speech by Abe Lincoln, and their minds wander, they don't have much schema. What we're telling them to do is, so much of the SAT asks specifically for them to look at lines 24 through 36. What does this part infer? So the kids, we're teaching them to find where in the passage they need to get answers to those questions first. Then that helps them build schema, and then as they skim through the rest of the passage, they can determine the main idea from that. For additional SAT strategies in class, Mr. Eric Fire from Lincoln Way West will talk about 6-way paragraphs.
What we have in front of us, and really the trick in not only getting the students involved in going day to day and looking at reading passages and having them do some of the skill questioning that we ask them for. And part of the trick too is getting the teachers on board and trying to get them to offer readings and strategies to the students, because especially in the freshman, sophomore years, those kids aren't thinking about SAT yet, ACT. So we want to embed various short passages in our content in order to have these students practice this. So the carrot on the stick for the teachers is to come up with a lot of different types of readings that they can put it right in the middle or right at the start or right at the end of their lessons on something exactly in which they are presenting to the class during that day. So right here, a U.S. history teacher may be talking about the Revolutionary War, the causes of the Revolution. We have an excerpt from the Boston Tea Party. But the key is, of course, is these 6 questions that come after it, which basically will go into main idea, go into summarization, write their questioning, inference questioning, and vocabulary and context. These are things that strategies, questioning that these students need to do in order to be successful on those high stakes standardized tests. So we have, really they number in the hundreds of these short 6-way paragraphs that we put them, like I said, at the start of the class to get interest in the students toward the subject area. We'll put it right in the middle of the lecture. We'll use it in the last 5 minutes of class. We also will have these things at the end of almost all of our assessments. And again, it is a great way for the students to kind of see the stuff. They see the stuff all the time now going into their junior year when they are taking these tests. Also, you have a number of examples in front of you. Here is something for summarization, which is key not only in reading strategies, but for writing too. Being able to take a whole excerpt of a reading passage and to sum it up in a couple sentences. That very good for students to do. Also, we have SAT readings and ACT readings. And the last thing I want to say is just that these are not coming out of a book. These are teacher-made from Lincoln Way. And again, if a teacher, instead of telling, say, a story in the middle of his lecture, he can offer that story in a reading passage and have the questioning stems with it. And again, it fits real nice in there. And we're basically killing 2 birds with one stone. So we found it very successful. Thank you. Thank you.
So as you can see, social science is has embraced a lot of the reading and writing strategies for these standardized tests. We know these are so important for our students. So we wanted to emphasize to you how we have really taken our core classes, freshman year with what will be world history and the honors level, U.S. history sophomore year, and civics and econ or the AP levels of those courses junior year. Because we have those core classes and we see the majority of those kids, particularly our sophomore and junior year, we have created curriculum to lend support to those kids. So when they are juniors and they are sitting in our civics and econ classes or our AP econ, AP Gov, they've already had freshman and sophomore year exposure to document-based questions. Those come from the College Board and those, of course, come from, are part of the SAT. And they get that reading practice still. And then junior year, they're having exposure to free response questions, yet another acronym, the FRQs, which asks them to analyze charts and graphs. And that is a huge part of the SAT and the direction that a lot of the College Board, still the AP exams are headed. So having the students in our core curriculum during the year, they are getting this with their social science instruction. So as I finish up and before I hand it off to Dave, we wanted you to know also, not just in class, but every department in social science across our district is spending time before and after school meeting with students, during advisories meeting with students, and giving them additional SAT, ACT practice, meeting with them for AP exams as well. I looked at our registration numbers. We have about 2,500 AP exams this spring through our department alone. And that's sophomore, junior, senior year. So and our kids are pretty successful on that. And as you know, as many of you are parents of college age or soon to be college age kids, that's dollars. So we're really proud of that. And to talk more about what we do for AP preparations, our incoming department chair at West, Dave Gallagher. There you go, sir.
I don't know who puts microphones and he puts mics. So I'll just try to use my coach's voice as best I can here. As Michelle mentioned, our department does administer the most AP tests across our district. And so it's tantamount for us that our students are prepared for that test. And really the test is broken down into 3 parts. You have an objective section, which is multiple choice, FRQ, free response question, and a DBQ, a document-based question. I'm not going to share the multiple choice questions with you because I feel you've probably seen one of those before in your life. But I will go over the FRQ with you right now. With the FRQ, this is, if you remember back from your days in college, the blue book, the question on top, and then the page staring in the face, and that can be sometimes an anxious moment. We try to remove some of that anxiety. You're going to get a prompt from the AP College Board, and you have to, as a student, use your background knowledge to prove your thesis that answers the prompt. And what we really try to stress to students is think like a lawyer. Now, to lower your anxiety, that's a good thing for us. Because what we're trying to do is prove your point with facts. Facts that you have learned throughout the course of your study in our given class. So, good example would be right here. Here you have a question asking about the first 3 presidents and did they support or not support the Constitution. You've got to be able to support that statement with hopefully historical facts. The other big component of the AP exam are the DBQ questions. Now this is really where the skill building just takes off, because a student is asked in about a 45-minute period to take a look at 5 to 7 different documents. Now those could be documents, or they could be what you see right here, a political cartoon. They could also be a chart, they could also be map, and you have to take all these, at first what appears disjointed documents, and figure out a way, how am I going to use them, okay? So, for example, this is taken from a DBQ where the prompt was about women's suffrage. And just so you know, father of 2 daughters, I'm totally in support of it. I believe women should have the right to vote. If you take a look right here, though, one of the things that they ask students to do is diagnose author bias. Is there a bias in what the author is using? So, for example, on this document, it's coming from a women's magazine, okay? If you as a student, you read that and then you see that obviously it is in support of women's suffrage, make that connection and explain it. We have a couple other examples right here. You see at the bottom there is a chart. On top, a letter from Paul von Hindenburg. That's good reading right there. 2 distinctly different documents, but you as a student have to figure out a way to synthesize, possibly compare and contrast them, identify the bias, and get that all done in a 45-minute period. So what we're asking our students to do, it is a lot, but they are capable of doing it. And really, this is the great separator for our students compared to the norm. Because when you look at the national scores, our kids blow others out of the water because they can write, and they can write well. And what we're so pleased about as a department, at first this was only in the AP world for us. We brought it to everybody. It's in all our college prep courses, and we've broken it down so if you're a college prep teacher, you don't have to go through a whole DBQ. Class starter, 2 documents. Spend 5-10 minutes, compare and contrast it, so you're still working on the same skills. What we're also proud of, look at those skills right there. You're not going to only use it for us, you're going to use it to that next level, and quite frankly, you're going to use it down the hallway when you go to that next classroom. Because you take a look, all those skills right there, I don't care where you're at in our building or what class you're in, you're employing those skills. So we're really proud of the work that we've done with FRQs and DBQs as a department and look to build on it. And then to wrap things up here with a couple changes in our department, Marty Dykes.
Hi, thank you. I'm here to talk a little bit about what changes are being made here as the social sciences change. When we started teaching, most of us, the history of what we did was different than what it is today. The thought process of thinking like an historian is more important today than it ever has been, and we needed to adapt to that. And so we're excited to talk about what's going to happen here next year with our transition from Western civilization, which is mostly Eurocentric, to a worldwide view. Had some phenomenal discussions, been very lucky to be a part of the curriculum development in this very room over the last 6 months. And we had a teacher that kind of talked a little bit about what our students' needs are. And this idea of a global citizen, which is on the bottom of the slide there, means something more today than it ever has. And what we wanted to be able to do is to tell our kids, what was going on in other parts of the world that we weren't necessarily representing in all of our classes and our curriculum. So we've been able to put together a new curriculum for our freshmen that'll start next fall. We're very, very excited about this. We spent a lot of time researching what other schools, other buildings were doing, and we've been very, very lucky to be able to make it our own. And like I said, one of the great things about being a department chair is seeing the unbelievable people and their passion for what they do here. And to be in a room and watch, in this case, 7, 8, 9 faculty members put together a new curriculum and really understand what the needs of our students are. It's been fun to watch. And so starting next fall, we're going to do that. So as you can see, we're getting a new idea of things in Eastern cultures, India, China, Africa, Mesoamerica, all things that at this point haven't been represented in our curriculum. And I think kids are really going to enjoy it. The big part of this, as you saw with all of our AP numbers, is we're going to give kids an opportunity as a freshman, if they're ready, if they want to take an AP test. And that's going to be something that's going to be a huge opportunity. So that 2,500 number is going to increase significantly district-wide. And what we found is that's what other schools are doing, and our kids have shown that they're capable of it. I'm pretty lucky. I teach this class right now at the honors level, and it's amazing what our kids are capable of. And every day you come to work and you're excited to hear what they have to say and what perspective they have to offer. And now we're going to do it even more so. So that whole concept of thinking like a historian is going to be pretty impressive. And I'm very, very excited to be a part of it. And like I said, to watch our people put this together has been a lot of fun. And that kind of goes to the big picture. You know, what our kids are walking out of here opportunity-wise is amazing. Some of our kids enrolling in college as sophomores, graduating in 3 years because of the opportunities that we've given them. And again, it's not just in social science and everything we do, but obviously we're a little biased and we think what we do is pretty amazing. And it's going to continue. But the fun part is not just in the required classes, but what we give our kids opportunities in electives. The amount of kids that have said that they want to study criminal justice because of our Intro to Crim class, or students that come and want to be social workers for whether it be sociology or psychology, or counselors, or whatever it is that their interests are. We feel like we have something that can represent those kids, and it's in a new world, and it's in a place that they feel a part of. And a lot of our kids spend a lot of their day up in social science. And like I said, we're very, very excited about that and what that's going to look like here in the next year. So thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to speak today. We're very thankful for that, and hopefully, if you have any questions or anything like that, Dave can answer it for you.
Yeah, thank you. And it is, you hear it, their energy in their voices. You had the English chairs, remember first semester, between what they do and what these guys do. Our kids walk out really as prepared readers and writers, and especially thinkers. So before we let this crew go, I do have to have one guy run the gauntlet here. This is Mr. Byers last year. And how many years here?
32.
32.
Wow.
Very nice. I won't shake all your. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pete, as well, thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of approval of the regular minutes, meeting minutes of February 15th, 2018, regular minutes of the meeting of March 1st, 2018, approval of the closed meeting minutes of February 15th, 2018, approval of District 210 advisory minutes from February 12th, 2018, approval of the payrolls from February 20th, 2018 and March 2nd, 2018, request for out-of-state travel, IHSA membership renewal. Does anyone wish to have any of these items pulled and discussed separately? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. All members vote aye, the motion passes.
Thank you, Linda. Next are our action items. First action item is presentation of invoices for February 2018.
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $2,191,082.53 dated March 15th, 2018.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? If not, call for a vote, please.
Vote's open. The vote is closed, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Treasurer's Report for February 2018. And entertain a motion to accept the Treasurer's Report as presented in your package. There's a motion, is there a second? Motion and a second. Discussion, Brad.
Yes, thank you. So you will see in your information there, we collected $2.6 million in revenue this month. We did have an unexpected mandatory categorical payment from the state, which helped boost that up from what we had initially projected. And we spent $6.8 million, resulting in an actual cash balance of $9.1 million, which we have outstanding $13.1 million of tax anticipation warrants, resulting in, we're actually negative right at the moment of almost $4 million negative balance. Reflecting on the cash flows, like I said, we collected more revenue this month than we had anticipated. We anticipated 1.9 million, we actually collected 2.6. And then expenditures were better than expected, mainly to do with the actual, we did not receive the GACA, our custodial contractor. We did not receive their invoice in time, so we did not pay them, so we'll have double payment in March. Otherwise, everything else is on track. So that, at the request, I've included an update in one of the updates in the packet was our estimated final revenue based on all the information that we currently have and including that extra payment that we got on the categorical. So we're now projecting about 1.6 million of revenue above the actual budget. And all expenditures look to be in line at this moment in time. So with that, I'd entertain questions.
So the 1.7 million additional revenue, is that mostly in the operating funds?
Yes, mostly is. In fact, some of you can see, like in Fund 40, we're actually looking at a small decrease. But yes, almost all of it is going to be in Fund 10.
Does this flow through on the cash flow report then, the additional?
Yes. So the cash flow report is been adjusted to reflect this additional revenue, both positive and negative.
So kind of taking that question one step further, does it affect the TAWS draws?
It's already built in there. So where we thought we would expect, so we're still about the same overall what we expect to draw in the TAWs.
The TAW repayment in May, is that automatic based on the agreement we have?
Right. So the way that works, the escrow agreement specifies the percentage, well, it doesn't specify the exact percentage in the escrow agreement, just that we'll have that paid off by October. And so then we do the calculation for the escrow. We take a look at historically what we've collected in tax levy during that period. We apply that, it turns out about 30%. And so then we file that with the escrow agreement, and then it automatically goes to Old Second. If for some reason we're up or down, then we would have to make the additional payment, by wiring funds to pay them off. Or if we have extra, then they just transfer it out of the escrow account.
I'm assuming these dates are estimates when we're going to receive the tax payments.
Yeah.
May 25th and June 22nd?
They are, just after actually finishing this and getting it into the board packets, we did get the notice from Will County of what the actual dates are going to be. So I will update that for next month, but they're very close.
Did they provide an actual amount?
No, they, yeah, just the dates they're going to, and they don't know the amounts either until the actual tax collected. It's just who decides to pay both payments at one time, or who, what, you know, so they don't know either.
Well,
I can't remember. Sorry.
Just the only question I have on that was that we had this discussion about people prepaying prior to the end of the year due to the tax law changes. And I would still anticipate that that first payment might be more of a spike than a traditional payment.
Right, that's possible, but Will
It's not
County.
built into here, you're just using a normal run rate.
This is, the cash flow is based on a normal run rate, because Will County is not able to give us any more specific data on that at the moment.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, so. But I was just trying to make sure this TAW repayment in May, because in June, you know, if the tax money comes in on June 22nd, and you have, you know, two payrolls, and the accounts payable checks have to be paid before you receive the taxes in. Obviously, we only have, this is kind of like an omnibus, right? There is no like specific ed checking account. It's more of a, it's one account for the district.
Right.
Because I mean, you have a negative balance in some of these funds in June, inter-month.
Right, inter-month, right. Yeah, we use consolidated cash management, and then, of course, we track it by fund on our computer system, but you're right, there's not a specific general fund checking account.
And this repayment on June 22nd, that's, you're showing the net effects of this, correct? Because it, $4 million, it has to go from O&M to education, and education pays working cash.
Working cash, correctly, right. And that's is assuming on, you see on tonight's agenda, we have a $1 million interfund loan from Ed to O&M, and then we will, then we'll be bringing back in April what amount we need to finish out the year, and then of course, as soon as the taxes come in, we'll repay those.
Currently, are we holding any payment?
No.
What was the lower tuition of the district, 843?
It's just really, I mean, they kind of accelerate those at the beginning, now we're tailing off, and we're pretty much, I believe we're almost done with absolutely any payments necessary.
Yes, without any adjustments in enrollment, correct.
Right.
So our projection now would be the operating fund would run a surplus over $4 million.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Not. Motion in a second. No further discussion. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
Linda, I also didn't knock myself off and getting right back on.
Oh, okay.
My apologies, but
All right. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. The next action item, student activity report for February 2018. I'll entertain a motion to accept the student activities report as presented in your packet.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on this report?
In your backup materials from Kelly Lezzo, you can see that we do have 5 funds that have been negative. Lacrosse, badminton, girls water polo are all spring sports. That's typical. By the time we're finished here, those will be back up here by the close of the month. Class of 2019, we're still waiting on prom. And I believe everything else then should be out of the negatives by this point.
Any questions, comments regarding the student figures? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next item is interfund loan from Educational Fund of Operations and Maintenance Fund.
Go ahead, Brad.
Sure. So based on the cash flows we're projecting, we will need to loan from the Ed Fund O&M $1 million at this juncture to ensure that that fund is not negative at the end of March.
So in your package, you have a copy of the resolution authorizing the interfund loan from the Ed Fund to the O&M Fund. I won't read it in detail, but entertain a motion to authorize the interfund loan. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any additional discussion? Hearing
So
none?
you're just breaking them up into two pieces so that we don't have to borrow as much, and take down as much on the TAWs?
Exactly. So by having two, we'll save to draw on an extra $1 million for a month.
Any additional comments or questions? Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Thanks, Brett. Next on the action items, personnel reports.
Good evening. Under employment, Kaylee Falsey has accepted a position as a paraprofessional. Laura Ford has accepted a position as a bus driver. Deborah Plekovic has accepted a position as a bus driver. And Kevin Seemick has accepted a position as a custodian. Ask the board to approve the employment report as presented.
A motion to approve the employment report as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion and second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. Oh, I'm sorry, all right. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next.
Under resignations, Nick Albergo, bus driver, resigned his position effective March 8, 2018. And Deborah Mann, bus driver, has resigned from her position effective February 20th, 2018. I ask the board to approve these resignations as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve the report as presented. There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, I would also like to refer the board to the resolution for the dismissal and non-renewal of certain non-final year probationary teachers in your backup materials. I would like the board to adopt the resolution as presented.
The resolution is in your packet. Is there any questions for Rob regarding the resolution?
What's a non-final year probationary teacher?
These are non-tenured teachers, in this case, first and second year teachers.
So this would be a non-renewal, so we will not be issuing them a contract in the fall.
There's a non-renewal, they have no recall rights or anything.
That's correct.
They're done.
That's pursuant to the school code?
Yes.
Correct.
And this is done, we're going to be reducing the number of teachers next year?
Not necessarily.
That's not.
No, not necessarily. We still are in the process of finishing up the master schedule. We will be posting some positions due to retirements.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to accept the resolution as presented in your packet.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion or question? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you, Rob. Next action item is Skyward Service Agreement Renewal.
Good evening. As you're aware, we've been operating with Skyward for the last 3 years on our student side and for the last 2 years with our financial side. Our 3-year agreement is up with Skyward, and it is time for us to renew our service agreement. Skyward has provided us with 2 options. One is a 3-year set renewal price. The other is a 1-year annual renewal, not guaranteeing any price. When I had my conversations with Skyward, they said that the cost would increase 10% per year. That's their typical increase as they've seen in the past. So looking at that, you can see the breakdowns down towards the bottom, the total 3-year cost broken out. When they do a 3-year analysis, it's based on the current students in the first year over that 3-year period of time. When they do a year-to-year cost analysis, it is taken based on the students projected for next year at a specific date every year. So assuming that the students' enrollment is on there as projected, so you can kind of see how the cost compares from year to year. It would be my recommendation that we enter into a 3-year agreement with Skyward at this time.
So the price went, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the price went down, but it's really because of the student enrollment.
It is.
The increase is fairly modest. $17.
But the cost is going down from 377 to 365.
Right.
So if we lock into this 3-year agreement, those numbers will stay the same, the
They will.
121, even if the students somehow go up?
That is correct. It locks it in at the current student enrollment for the 3-year period of time.
Why do they charge per
I think
student?
the question was if the student enrollment goes up.
They lock it in at the current student enrollment for the 3 years.
At the per student level.
For the entire quote is based on, so to renew the 3-year, it would be based on the projected $69.25 for all of this. Yeah, that's how they, for all 3 years.
So if student enrollment goes up to 7,200 in year 3.
Still locked in at
Still locked in,
$69.25.
okay.
But it's projected to be decreased, so it'd still be...
121,187.50 per year.
Right.
Every year.
Regardless of our student enrollment.
All our students, why put the student numbers in?
That's how you charge.
Confusing.
Okay, that's all I want to clarify.
Easily.
Yeah.
Overall performance of Skyward, happy you went to it. If it went away tomorrow, would you be sad?
As much as I enjoy the process of going from Ralco to Skyward, I would never want to switch again right now. But Skyward's been great. Our teachers absolutely love the features that are available to our students. I think that the financial aspect of it, the reporting aspect on the finance side, has been a definite benefit to us.
We've been using it for a long time too. It's great. There's a ton of stuff you can do with it.
Richards.
Yeah, 218. We've had it for a long time. It's at least 7 years right now. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions or comments regarding the proposal? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept his recommendation for the 3-year pricing regarding the Skyward Service Agreement.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any additional discussion or comments?
I have one more.
Please, go.
This was, we're budgeted, I mean, this is what we're budgeting for.
Correct.
This is not something that's way outside of...
That's correct.
No, this is, we thought, actually, I know when Dr. Murphy was putting this together, we thought it would be a couple $1,000s more. but it's certainly in the ballpark.
Any other questions or comments? If not, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Next on the action item, Fourth Amendment to the land sale agreement.
Should we just do the fifth one?
We're still.
Sometimes it takes all four downs to get the ball across the finish.
So this would be to ratify the extension to May 4th. Still working on road access and water detention, but all parties are still committed to getting to the finish line. We're hoping to do so and anticipate doing so by the end of June.
We understand their timeline, correct?
Correct.
Painfully understand.
Yes.
Plus, to add to Scott's comments, the collaborative effort is starting to bring in multiple municipalities as well. So you can see that the coalition of trying to get this finished is growing to a point now where, the confidence is moving in the right direction. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to ratify the Fourth Amendment to the land sale agreement.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next action item is the vehicle fuel bid. Additional comments on this? Rick?
Unless they have questions.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the vehicle fuel bid recommendation as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Question or comments on this?
Just the difference between the low bid and the high bid is so, it's so different. I was just, not half, no, it's more than 6 times.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, what, do you know what's?
Yeah,
What's that zero?
So there's zero in front of the two.
Well,
First is a really big company, though.
right, I mean, I'm just going to speculate that I guess this other vendor has not been introduced to that kind of competition before, and maybe it's not an actual, because, these are wholesalers who we're working with, where they will bring it in a semi-load. I don't know what the difference, but, obviously you can see there's a substantial difference in price. But if you look at the other, competitive bidders, they're, right in line where we'd expect. Avalon Petroleum is our current vendor. I'm very pleased with them, and we're very pleased with their bid, and it's a very competitive bid from what I've seen in other bids that have come in other districts.
Is this what you were expecting in terms of our budget back to the?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Is that close to what we're paying now, do you know, Greg?
No, it's cheaper than what we're paying now, but it's not an apples to apples comparison. Right now, they are providing fuel tanks and pumps and maintenance and some other things to us. We have taken over ownership, and so we now own our own tanks and pumps and et cetera. So we'll have a little maintenance cost of keeping that up, but the good thing is now we own these tanks, we can buy fuel from whoever has the best price, and so this is a better situation for the district.
We're responsible for the inspections and making sure everything is up to
code and all of that.
Is this the first time you put it out to bid?
To my understanding, I think that would be an accurate statement.
Is the diesel #2 OPIS average rack? Where do you get that information from?
Well, that's published. It's that's published market. It's like the commodities, mercantile. So this is a petroleum trading market, and so it's based on that average, what it traded for that day. Now, obviously, vendor can buy in bigger bulk, buy hedges. I mean, there's all sorts of things that they can do to leverage to make more or less on this. But that's their prerogative. From our perspective, we want to know that when we look at our invoices, we can verify those to a verifiable published number plus the markup. So that's why we use the oil index for Chicago, average rack rate for that day.
So it's a tradable commodity.
Yeah, right.
So this is just the rate we're paying, not any amount, specific amounts that we have to pay?
No, it fluctuates. So as the market goes up or down, so it's that base price plus this fixed markup for the vendor. And that's the best way to bid it. You know, fuel prices go up. I mean, we could try to get for a fixed, but my philosophy on that is over the long haul, the vendor's going to win or they don't do this, you know. So you may win 1 year, whatever, but over the long haul, you're going to pay for having a fixed fuel cost.
You know, we call it the airline.
This is for 3 years. This is a 3-year contract.
3-year contract, and that's a firm markup for the 3 years.
You just want to clarify, I think, Karen's question, there's no volume requirement.
No, no.
So minimum or maximum?
No, there's, right, we just specify in there what we expect our volume to be, and then, of course, we have specified delivery sizes, and we take delivery daily on, when the school is running, and so then they have to know they can bring in 1,000-gallon increments for, you know, et cetera.
Yeah, it says good service so far, so no.
Yes, we've had them for, I think, about 12, over 12 years.
And if you remember about, well, it was 5 years ago now when we had the brutal winter and we had to run the buses throughout, and they were coming twice a day to load our tanks. And they were very, very responsive. Very responsive.
Any additional questions? Good discussion. If not, I think we have a motion and a second.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next is custodial supplies bid. In your packet is a recommendation for custodial supplies bid. I'd entertain a motion that the board approve the purchase of custodial supplies from Valdez LLC, Tri-K Supplies, Premier Supplies, and Interboro Packaging. Interboro Packaging. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation that's in your packet?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
It's just a 1-year contract, or?
Rich, go ahead and tell us kind of how you put this together.
Yeah, this is an annual contract with paper products and plastics. The vendors are reluctant to give multiple-year pricing. It's difficult for them, so we do this annually.
Most of the vendors that are you're recommending, vendors we've been using in the past, are a lot of them all new?
3 of the 4 are vendors that we currently use. The new one is Interboro. I have had a conversation with them and inspected their product. We're satisfied with the product, and they're comfortable with it.
Do you know what the cost was for these, for this year?
Until the year is out, I couldn't tell you exactly what we'll spend in FY18. We did adjust the quantities on one of the products up because we know we're using more than we thought we would. So that's why the estimate for FY19 is a little bit more than the estimate was for FY18. I believe last year we came to the board with about $48,000 estimate. This year it's $51,000.
What product were you using more of?
Toilet paper.
Sorry, I asked.
Brad, this is in budget, I assume?
I got a joke in there somewhere.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
Vote is open.
vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next is our telecommunications RFP. The recommendation is to approve the Lincoln Way telecommunication proposal for $222,183 with CDW-G, including 5-year support contract as presented. Is there a motion to accept the proposal that is a new package?
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Let the discussion begin.
Okay, if I can just quickly give you an overview. I've been working with Cheryl K. in technology. You know, the district's phone system is over 10 years old. The hardware is aged, and we are not able to continue to have software support. And as you can well imagine, a communication system is very critical to the district. We're looking to upgrade this. What is included in the proposed fiscal year 2019 budget. It did come in lower than we had estimated, so we're happy about that. And the reason we're recommending a 5-year service agreement, this is the kind of thing that we need a service agreement on. By speccing out and taking advantage of the 5 years, we do get a little discount. We have to prepay the 5 years, but then we're locked in at the rate. We don't have to worry about inflationary things coming through in the next 5 years if we just go on a 1 year-by-year agreement. So we would recommend that we go ahead and purchase the 5-year agreement.
We have to pay all 5 years in advance?
We do pay for the discount and the locked-in rate. You do pay the 5 years in advance.
Those all 3 providers that you got this from?
Yes. So.
Does CDWG, are they providing the support contract?
Cheryl? Yes, thank you, Cheryl.
The support contracts would be through Cisco SmartNet for hardware support, and that also gives us software assurance where we could upgrade when a new version of the software comes out, and we would get all the security updates with that.
So the contract with CDW, so Joe, you said 222,183.40, which I think is including the 5-year support contract.
Right.
Is there a difference between CDWG, which, because that totals 192,7206?
Yes. The 192,072 number is a 1-year support contract included with the hardware and software to purchase it. The 222 number would be the 5-year price. The hardware numbers are the same and the professional services are the same. The difference is in the support contract.
So if you go to page 2 of your attachments, the third proposal.
Leslie, I have a question. So who are we paying the service contract to, CDW or Cisco?
CDW is the reseller. They will handle that for us.
So we're writing the check to CDW?
Correct.
And I'm going to ask a dumb question, I'm sorry. Who is CDW?
Yes, CDW is the name of the company.
Okay.
G is their government and education branch.
Okay. And if there's no financials under due diligence, they're fine?
Yes, they're a very large reseller. They've been around for a good number of years and do a great job with the work.
Going to be around for 60 more months?
Absolutely.
Not Toys R Us.
Cheryl, if our current system is 10 years old and somewhat obsolete, 5 years with technology changing, is 5 years realistic?
Yes, I think 5 years is very realistic. We actually talked to the vendor about 7 to 10 years, and our proposal includes replacing the phone handsets with that, because as we keep going to newer versions, our phones are older, and we did everything as a complete package, anticipating this will get us through 7 to 10 years.
And this is global, all the buildings, transportation, everything in the system gets a new phone?
Other questions?
You said we anticipated this number coming a little bit higher?
Right, so when we were initially building the budget, I believe we had 400,000, what we thought this could potentially cost us. So we're very happy with these bidding results.
Out of 180, did we move it higher?
So the 400,000 was what was in the 5-year.
Right, in the 5-year financial forecast.
Were there any 3 bids that we let it out to? Any magic about the number of bidders? I think we actually,
We had about 10 companies express an
responded.
interest, and we sent out the bid packets to those 10 companies. Only 3 companies actually turned in a bid for the bid.
anything else? If not, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your work. All right, next is our Lincoln Way District infrastructure proposal. The recommendation is the Board of Education approve the Lincoln Way District infrastructure proposal for $74,103.30 for CDWG as presented. I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation as presented in the package.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Okay, any questions or discussion regarding this proposal?
Was this the only bid we received?
Right. Yes, so let me just address that. So, because this is an infrastructural thing and is qualified under E-rate, we use the E-rate platform for going out and soliciting proposals. So, you know, I can't answer why some companies will or won't, other than there's possibly some additional work that needs to be done to be an E-rate vendor. So we work through our E-rate consultant. They go out there, we put it out into the marketplace, and we did just receive the one back from CDW. However, with that, we're very confident on the price discount. They are a platinum reseller, so we get a 54% discount off the manufacturer's suggested prices. And then in addition to that, we will get 40% of the final cost rebated back to us through the E-rate process. So it's a substantial good savings for the district to do the extra work and go through the E-rate process. We feel comfortable about the final price and recommend approval.
This is, unlike the other one, this is in the 2018 budget.
That is correct.
What is the increase in the technology budget from 18 to 19, just out of curiosity, you know?
Well, other than, it was flat, other than the about $631,000 proposed increase in fiscal year 19, which was to cover the telephone systems and some other additional infrastructure, computers, right?
Laptops.
Yeah.
Does the 74,000 then include the 40% rebate?
No, that's our gross. So the way E-rate works, we have to pay the gross cost up front, and then once the project's completed, we submit the completion work and the final cost to E-rate, and then they reimburse us based on that 40% price.
So that number will come down?
Yes, so yes.
Any other questions? If not, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
Oh. There. I was just echoing my concerns.
Thank you.
The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, thank you, and thank you everyone for putting in all those work, all that bidding process. Obviously, you can see it's keeping it in line, or even in some cases finding some significant savings. So thank you for your efforts. All right, next are the informational items. Report on Lincoln Way Special Ed District 843. Ron?
Yes, I attended that meeting. This time of year, it's kind of business as usual, not a whole bunch going on. Our meeting Tuesday will be looking at the director's contract. We're in final phases of that, probably be approving that, and looking at some reduction in force for the upcoming year, but pretty good at 843. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Ron? If not, we'll move on to FOIA requests.
FOIA request, there was one this past month, and it's included in your backup materials for your review.
Any questions regarding FOIA requests? Next, audit findings.
None to discuss this month.
Buildings and grounds report.
It's included in your backup materials. Mr. Wilkie is available if anyone has any questions.
Any questions regarding the buildings and grounds report?
Rich, just one thing on the upgrade for the security. Were we able to find out if they're able to move it forward at all or any sooner? By chance, do you know?
Yeah.
The contractor for the general trades contract thought that that was unrealistic. That it was part of a total package, and that it's about 8 weeks of work, and we're going to try and squeeze that into the week of Easter.
It's fine, no, I appreciate you looking into that, thank you.
Next, community relations report.
Once again, Pride Sheet is available in your backup materials and public access for your review.
Next, asset of the month.
Asset of the month for April, positive identity. At home, model what it means to have a sense of purpose in life, do things that matter to you, develop your talents, pursue your dreams, share your sense of purpose with your children. At school, encourage and support students in pursuing their dreams in your community. Help young people set personal goals that inspire hope. Thank you.
Next, policies, first reading.
Included a number of policies for your review for first reading. Policy 4-170 is the policy regarding safety. Policy 820 is the community use policy. I did make a proposed change, but once again, board policies, so they're up for your discussion. And then superintendent's notes, the press policies, and then the actual policy worksheets for the upcoming policies from the press policies. So we have the group from press, but then we have the two that were discussed at the last meeting. If the board would like to discuss, I wanted to include them for your review.
Policy 4-170, there's nothing being proposed to change this year in case we wanted to discuss it?
Correct, not from the administration.
Right. Now, this was, I had asked as an individual, Scott put these on the basis of my discussions with you over the past couple of weeks regarding the safety issue and feedback from the community. I feel administration did their role, they managed the process. Now it's our responsibility to take a look at the policy. We can choose to do nothing, we can choose to eliminate the policies, we can choose to enhance the policies, and that's why you have them in front of you. So there's no recommendation or mandate from administration at this time. This is just because it's a topic, it's timely. We thought it was important to put it in front of the six of you, and obviously myself, to make sure that it fits where we think we need to be at this time. So it's a first reading. I'm sure there'll be plenty to discuss over the next 30 days. And then if we choose to take action, we can do it at the next scheduled meeting. Make sense? Thank you. Next is registration fees for the 2018-2019 school year.
Included in your backup materials is a memo with some comparisons of other districts. I wanted to just get this in front of the board. We would look for April to approve fees for the upcoming year. I wanted to open it up for a discussion from the board. As you can see, I included districts such as 230, Valley View, Lockport, Downers Grove, Bremen, Naperville 203. Also included are different options in terms of structure of fees. We have what we did this year. We have the amount we collected in the fall and the winter. The spring fees, I believe, will be assessed tomorrow, Dr. Murphy. That's correct. From the first two seasons, our collection rate is about 66%. It's quite different than we've seen in past years, but this is the first time we're doing this. We still anticipate receiving $140,000, $150,000 in revenue. District 210 Advisory, which Beth is the board liaison, she can discuss, but there was the discussion of doing things as is. As you'll see in my scenarios, I also included a $5 increase just to see what it looked like. But there was also discussion of $50 as an activity fee assessed at registration and collected up front. That would be about a $300,000 increase in revenue. So that can be discussed. And then also, a potential transportation fee. We will make a recommendation that we increase our cap and gown fee. We will call it a graduation fee. We will include the cost of the cap and gown and the diploma. So I will get that out to everyone. And then I know another option that had been discussed in the past is a per event, per sport fee. What we have asked our athletic directors to do and what we have completed now for the fall, and we're just now working towards winter, is a line-by-line expense account. Kelly Luzzo put together an excellent spreadsheet, fall, winter, spring. As the season concludes, we get a true cost. This then will be used to build the budget line item. We know we've been making strides in our budgeting process. This will help in that process as we go from bigger to more granular and look at the sport by sport. But wanted to open this up for discussion to see what other additional information the board would need to move forward with approval of student fees in the month of April.
Quick question with the graduation fee. I assume that now they pay cap gown diploma separately.
Well, we just have
And
a
now we
cap
just
and
want it
gown,
together.
and we're gonna add the cost of it.
So they pay it at the beginning of the year as opposed to when they're actually getting
At
their cap and
registration,
gown and
yes.
Jostins and cut
Absolutely.
checks. It
Absolutely.
seems to be a little more
Go
streamlined.
to the
do it like
school,
that.
and then we, yes, cut a
Okay.
check. Correct.
What's the thought with the transportation fee?
Just ask to place for discussion.
I just quickly, before I came, I looked up my receipts on Skyward for Mokina 159. And it was $275 registration, $25 technology, and $200 for the bus. It was $500 without sports.
Now, next year, I do not believe they're going to charge for
Yeah,
transportation.
I've heard that 159 is going to no fee for bus next year.
They're the only one of our feeders that do charge. We have, as a community unit district, or community high school district, the ability to charge if the board would so approve.
That came up on one of our forums, and the logic behind it was such that we charge for people to have a parking sticker. And the idea behind that is, well, there's wear and tear in the lots, plus there's a little bit of supply and demand that kicks in there as well. There's also costs associated with operating bus, fuel we've heard about, we've done bus leases, with bus drivers, and then the fee might create a commitment to actually take the bus, because now we pay for the bus, where if there's no commitment and the bus kind of stops and nobody gets on, doesn't matter because I didn't pay for it anyway, or not directly. You're paying for it obviously through taxes and other revenue sources. So that was the conclusion of some of the discussions with the forum. And it seemed logical, and so we've asked them to place that up for discussion, give us some time to research other local districts and see what kind of impact that might have.
Do you know why Valley View's transportation fee is $525?
I saw that. And the superintendent was not at the last meeting, so I wasn't able to ask him, but I saw that.
Say what kind of bus is
And then
that?
a cap of, what, like almost 1,100
Yeah.
per family? Yeah, I thought that was very high.
But we lease enough buses that everyone who's eligible to take a bus, wanted to take a bus, we have a seat for them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But there's still cost.
No.
Yeah.
It's a new item. I think it takes some vetting, whether it happens now, it never happens, it's just to put it out there.
One of the concerns, we did have a meeting with administration to discuss fees. One of the concerns would be the potential of increasing the car riders for drop-off at the entrances, particularly at East and at Central, where that morning rush hour becomes very tight to get cars off of Route 30 or off Colorado into the U for the drop-off. That is one concern that was brought forward.
If you went to the $50 fee, would that go towards stipend and equipment, or where's that?
Well, that $50 fee would go into the general fund. It would just be a general line item to help offset expenditures.
Do you know how many unpaid fees there are still for Skyworks? There's still a lot?
No, I will have that to you at the end of next week. We're going to do our assessment tomorrow, get that email out. Next Friday, we'll run another report. But we're still outstanding about a third, yeah.
Have we done anything to try and collect those?
Yeah, just send emails. Typically, we have sent reminder emails to parents. We've improved over the last several years in terms of collecting student fees. We all know that the catch-all for your seniors is cap and gown distribution. We know the catch-all for everyone else is yearbook distribution. So you can't get your yearbook, you can't get your cap and gown until your fees are up to date. So typically that happens in middle end of May.
And that's all.
But reminder.
All through Skyworks, correct? So I mean, like the Skylarks that go out for the payments and stuff
Yeah,
like
so
that.
we have sent the reminders. There's still $15 outstanding or $25 outstanding.
And if you're a returning student, could you register without your fees being paid?
No, that will show up as a.
Would you stop holding register?
That fee would be added to the registration process. Yeah, it would accumulate.
Even if they didn't get a yearbook or something like that.
In terms of, our collection of our fees that are assessed at the beginning of the year are very, very good. We're talking a couple of hundred students, 7,000 that we're still working to pay their registration fees. It's just these additional fees have become cumbersome. I'll admit, I paid the last one late just because you weren't used to doing it.
Yeah.
It's a different sequence.
I appreciate the fact that you paid.
Got to pay, yes. Paid $25. Hit the cap now.
I'm still generally against just increasing the registration fee or whatever you want to call it, and having it go into a general fund, especially when you have 30% of the kids that aren't participating in an activity or something like that. And I think it's much easier when you have some transparency behind fees. I mean, we talked about when we were repaving the parking lot and how much we collected from parking fees relative to what it was going to cost us to repave. I mean, look, that's tangible. I think, everyone is used to paying a fee, especially athletes for their activities, and I just think it has to be something where it's kind of transparent. I kind of wanted, for last year, if we were talking, I wanted to see something also in conjunction with the fundraising. And maybe even if there was something done on the fundraising front where you could raise all your fees. I mean, you go to like the local baseball clubs, you can buy out or you can sell the candy bars or do whatever you have there. And again, I don't necessarily know if we've, gotten to the point where at least I don't understand where all that fundraising money from all these sports is going.
And that's
besides,
that's a great point, Chris. And that's what we're, that's what we're
50 cups.
No, that's what we're working towards with this line by line, the ADs having to complete at the end of the season. And so, if the board decided, if that's the direction we want to do, a sport by sport, line by line, that's something that can wait and be determined in June, July, and August prior to the start of the school year. I completely agree that we need more uniformity throughout the district in terms of our fundraising and in terms of how we fund sport by sport. That's something we are working towards now. In fact, I've met with a number of varsity coaches here in the last 3 weeks to discuss those different fundraising structures so that we get a feel across the district how that's going. You're right, as a parent, we're used to paying now for activities and for sports, but you want to see where that money is going. I agree. And that's something that I'm very confident at the end of this year we'll have a much better handle on that as we
Which
go on
then
season to season.
lends itself to a tiered system like neighborhood. I'm saying, like, if you wanted to actually look by sports, tiering it.
And that was, I wasn't going in that direction. I was just saying, as opposed to just putting one fee, I think, for Lockport, maybe it was, when they put in there for sports and activities. I mean, going in and raising that fee just doesn't, I don't think that's the right person.
That's why we have it out from, and I think the recommendation, if I'm wrong, came from the advisory
Yes,
committee, right?
yes.
So I mean, we're just kind of putting it all on the table.
And again, a lot of those parents and students are very involved students. So when you look at them paying $50, one, convenience was obviously the biggest issue. They, again, didn't want to go through Skyward 3 times a year to have to pay $15. They wanted to just pay $50 at registration and get it over with. That was probably the number one thing. The other thing, all of those kids and parents were involved in multiple things, so they met the $50 cap easily. So that was, I think, where that came from.
Well, again, this is not an action item, informational item, I would assume, and we'll encourage the information to get distributed as it becomes available.
If any additional needed information, please let us know. We can do cost structure analysis, and we'll do our best to get it to you.
Thank you. Next, legislative report.
Nothing to report at this time. It's all right.
They're off for 2 weeks.
They're off, yes.
Superintendent's district report.
We have a number of informational items. The first, I'm going to turn over to Tim Riley. Tim, if you want to go ahead and discuss the first informational item, our reading courses.
Yeah, you have a single sheet in front of you, and there's a proposal, and then there's something that we'll take toward action. So we want to present both to tonight, follow up in April. The proposal is changing the name of our freshman reading course from reading seminar to freshman seminar. The state has got much tougher on certifications, and we've had people that have taught that class from when we started 11 years ago, that if the name reading is in the title, could not teach it next year. Now, it's the same course, but because you have to have now a reading degree or a reading certification to teach any course with reading in the title. Same course. So if we change it to freshman seminar, Lockport has something similar. It's a freshman incoming seminar. We can let our best teachers teach it. It allows us to offer more sections in summer school. It's one of the reasons we have to put limits on summer school. It has to be a reading certified person that teaches that class. So I think, plus the class has evolved. I would say about half of what we do with the college prep kids is heavy reading. The rest of it really is note-taking and success strategies, where we introduce Office 365, they get their email. It is a freshman seminar. Now, for the struggling readers, we would keep that title as reading, just high school reading or reading. And I want that taught by somebody with a reading background. They can work with a dyslexic student, they can recognize a reading issue. So there would be 2 classes, just like there is now, freshman seminar, and then reading taught by the specialists. We have plenty of those to be able to do that well. So that's one you can discuss next month, just an informational piece. The proposal that anytime we change a graduation requirement, that has to come through the board. Right now, graduation requirement is any student that graduates from Lincoln Way needs to complete a 1-year reading graduation credit. Where that becomes a problem is with transfer students. You get a really bright kid that comes in as a junior. He's already taken his ACT, he's gotten a 33, and this happened last year. And he has to take the reading class, basically the freshman-style reading class. That kid should be allowed to take an AP count. So we would still look at transcripts of kids coming in. If they're low readers when they come in, we'd encourage them to take that class. But as far as a mandate, it's 60 to 80 kids a year that now would move into the elective pool, which helps our electives, and it just gives more freedom to kids. So the suggestion would be to consider for next month, all incoming freshmen and then an incoming sophomore transfers after their freshman year. That's still a good time for them to get all those skills. But by the time they're second semester sophomores, that becomes a scheduling nightmare for the kids, because now they have to wait till junior year, they lose one of their electives and so on. So take a look at that. The graduation requirement, actual graduation sheet is on the back. The wording we'd have to reconsider would be down at the bottom, that highlighted rule number 6. Students must successfully complete a reading course during the freshman year or before graduation. it'll be pretty easy to adapt that, and we'll send you some wording ahead of time. But, it's a proposal, but I think the time's right for us to do that.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, I put together the tentative Board of Education meeting schedule for 2018-19. If you open it, we would then revise all of Brad's timelines to match this budget. Brad and I have already met to do that. What I would propose is no meeting in July, and the reason for that, we don't take vacations at the same time. We always have to have somebody here, and so it's difficult to schedule. Also, I know at times it's difficult on board members. What we would propose is an August 2nd meeting. In that meeting would be the fiscal year 2018 closeout and all business pertaining to July, beginning of August. Rather than meet then in the middle of August, we always had it scheduled that first week of school, which was very taxing for all of us. We would come back August 30th. That would be the board budget workshop, but also be a scheduled meeting. Then we would go back into our third Thursday of the month in September, October, November would be the 15th of December. I did not place the December meeting then would include the strategic planning update. January 17th, I did not include the state of the district. We will do that again this year, but we do not need to do that as a formal board meeting unless the board would like to. That would be open to community members. It would be about 45 minutes as it was last time, but the board could just come, be in attendance, answer any questions, but it does not have to be a formal meeting. I cleared that with our attorney on that one. February 21st, March 21st, April 25th, May 16th, and then June 20th. If anybody has any questions or discussion items, I will pair this with Brad's budget timeline and have that ready as an action item for the next meeting. But if anyone would like anything changed or considered, we can do so.
April 25th is not the third Thursday. I don't know if that makes any difference. April 16th.
Is it spring?
Yeah,
Is it
because
spring
of
break?
Easter.
Oh,
Or
Easter.
because of, well, spring.
Okay.
No,
It wouldn't be
it's
spring
Easter.
break, but maybe
It's
it was
Easter.
Easter. Okay, so that's why we bumped it back. Yeah, June 1 to Thursday before we Friday.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Next on my list, we did receive a new rating from Moody's. Something Brad, Kelly, Bob Lewis from PMA and myself have worked on with Moody's. Kind of dating back, we had April 2016. This is something that Mr. Kirking asked me to bring forward. We went from A1 to BAAA3 with a negative outlook. In December of 2016, we went from BAAA3 to BA1 with a negative outlook. This latest rating, they've kept us at BA1, but they changed the negative outlook to a stable outlook. They've also agreed to a reevaluation in the fall once we complete our next audited financials. We have to remember, we only have one set of audited financials where we run a surplus, operating surplus. So, our goal was to, at a minimum, get that negative outlook removed. We changed it to a stable outlook. If things continue to trend in the right direction, I believe it's very possible for us to either get a positive outlook, but our hope is to move back into that investment grade. Brad, do you have anything in addition to add?
Just say we should be celebrating. That's all I got to say. It's very positive that we're able to go from a negative outlook to stable. I think that's huge. And I would see our next move going to investment grade. So I think it's very much a celebration, and we're definitely on the right track.
And that move to an investment grade could happen sometime later this calendar year?
No, it would be after we've completed our fiscal year, and then we get our audit in October. By the time we do a rating, it'll probably be 2019 already.
Which
Just time to
Go ahead.
So I was going to say two things.
Yeah.
First is the callable date on the bonds is January 1st of 19, so there's you don't think that this rating would be until 2019?
Well, right, we discussed that. So there's two reasons why we can get a re-rating from Moody's. One, because we've got new financials finished and done, which we typically have our audit by October-ish, so then we can ask for a re-rating then. We asked for a re-rating after we presented our audit this time, and it took till March. The second reason we can get a re-rating is because we were going to do something restructuring-wise on debt or issuing of debt. So in that case, it's a mandatory rating, so we could re-ask for something at that point. So that's our two opportunities for a re-rating. So if the board did elect to look at some kind of restructuring with that 19 call, then we would be asking for some kind of rating change, or rating of reevaluation.
How much weight do you think they were putting on the potential pension shift? Because they did list that as one of the potential reasons for the downgrade. Was, increased pension costs? Or, I mean, are they factoring in is that what they were talking about in that case, the pension shift?
Well, there's no doubt that they factored that but that factor weighs on all districts in Illinois. And you're not seeing all districts uniformly being dropped. So I don't think that in itself is creating an actual locking us from being a move up. What's the lack for us to move up is one, sustained history. We've got 1 year of audited financials in which we ran a surplus. Second is our need for TAWs. And then third is our ratherly high long-term debt. So, those factors, the long-term debt factor is going to take a while for that to change. So the greatest thing we can do, the two factors, continue to run surpluses and create history, but when they're speaking history, they're usually wanting 5 years of history, and of course, increasing our cash balances.
Yeah, I mean, but they downgraded in 2016. That had been there that long-term debt had been there a very long time. I mean, the muni area always gets down these ratings because it should be on the tax base and the ability of the bonds are backed by the tax base
And the collection.
and the collection, and that I just don't understand
Right, I agree with you, but the one thing that has changed from 2006, 2007 till today, so the amount of debt outstanding is the same. What has changed is the estimation of the EAB growth and what we think our final tax rate might be on debt service if we did nothing. And so, back in those pre-days, they were projecting continuing to increase EAB, which was then showing we're going to stay at about a 40-some cent, 50-cent max tax rate to service that debt. Then the 2008 housing crisis, of course, EABs actually declined, which was not, known of. And so now all of a sudden, these are the factors that are really, really affecting now the ratio of our EAB to debt. Is because they're expecting that debt service that's out in the future to be serviced by a larger EAB, and it's not.
But it's still
But it's still
a crazy percentage.
It is, but it could be as much as $1.40.
I understand.
And so, right.
It's still about the ability to collect once you charge it. I mean, you can charge it at 40 cents, and you're not collecting it, you're still not getting the revenue to pay back the debt.
Right.
But here, and I'm not advocating for this, so don't take this the wrong way. Even if the tax rate went up, the collection rate within the district is 99.97%. I mean,
right.
So you charge $1, you get paid $1.
Right.
And that's the thing. I don't think, to Chris's point, is accurately reflected in this.
In the way they do it.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd ask real quickly, because we just talked on this today as well, is we got a third year with Murmur Rogers or WRDR. If we had any conversation with them about trying to get in quicker, if we were gonna try and push it January or something to look at these bonds?
Right, we could certainly ask, but, you know, their book of business.
I understand, but it's March now, so they could even, and I know your schedule will be complicated by that as well, but I'd rather ask in March than in August, because the likelihood of schedule shift could happen.
And we'll be in a better position.
I agree. I mean, you gave a presentation tonight that the operating surplus is more and more real. We're cautiously optimistic about a land sale. So I mean, if this, I mean, just like any crisis, it's stable. The next move logically would be up. I think the next move up could be a good move up, but we have to initiate it. We have to push this up the hill. Okay, enough so.
And so for your review are the two reviews that were published end of the day, beginning of the day today, end of the day yesterday, beginning of the day today.
Any other questions for Darren? Moving to Scott's report. Any other district business?
Real quick, Mr. President. If the community just comes, you know, to these meetings once a month, you'd see the walkout, you'd see security. But over the last month, being unemployed, I've been able to attend a lot of the day-to-day functions. And, you know, Dr. Tingley, the admin team, the building principals, Taryn, they've done breakfast with the clergy, with the seniors, state of Manhattan, some of the stuff we do for the chambers. And I just want to thank you for being our cheerleaders. We don't always see the positive things in media print, because unfortunately those don't always sell as much as some of the other controversial things. So thank you and your team for what you continue to do for us.
Thank you, Rob. Any correspondence in addition? If not, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session for the following items: appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees, collective negotiating, and student discipline cases. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No action when we return.
And if you could bring your laptop.